It's actually a double header this weekend. It's going to be also Parashat Shkalim that we'll be reading as well, which talks about the obligation to give the half shekel every person. Back then they would give it in order to pay for the communal donations that would happen throughout the whole year. So we'll see that's actually connected to this week's parsha a little bit. So we're gonna speak today about the Orach Chaim. It's a fascinating Orach Chaim on this in the beginning of this week's parsha. So first we'll give the simple understanding of the psukim, and then we'll go into Orach Chaim's understanding, which is truly a work of art. So the psukim in the beginning of this week's parsha says, "Ve'ela mishpatim asher tasim lifnehem." These are the ordinances that you shall place before them. And then, right after, it starts talking about the laws of the Eved Ivri. So it says, Ki tikne Eved Ivri, sheshanim, ya'avod v'shvi'it, yetzeh lechovshi chinam. So if you buy a Jewish Eved, a Jewish servant, he shall work for 6 years, and on the 7th he should go free. Rashi explains that who is this guy that we're buying? It's someone who stole, and he was not able to pay back what he stole, whether he was a very poor person or he consumed whatever he sold and then he was not able to pay it back, whatever it may be. He's now in a position, or he sold himself from being so poor and he was in debt or whatever it may be. Now he sells himself, a Jewish person sells himself, and he sells himself to another Jew. So we say that for 6 years he works, and on the 7th he goes free. Now it's not totally accurate. It means that in the 6 years of a Shemitah cycle, so a Shemitah cycle starts every 7 years, and it's a cycle, so every 7 years it repeats itself. Now, if someone gets sold at the beginning of the Shemitah cycle, then correct, he is sold for 6 years. And then on the 7th, he goes free. But if he gets sold in the middle of the Shemitah cycle, then the 7th year, the Shemitah, that year of the Shemitah, would release him from his bondage. The pasuk continues, Im begapo yavo, begapo yetzeh, im balishahu ve'etza'a ishto imo. And then it says, if this slave gets sold by himself, meaning he didn't have a wife, he didn't have any children, then he shall leave also by himself. And if he is a husband, he has a wife, then his wife will leave with him as well. Im adonav yiten lo isha ve'alda lo banim o banot, ha'isha ve'ladeha tiye la'adonea v'hu yetzeh begapo. Now, if the master gives him a woman to marry and to bear children with, and he has sons and daughters, well, they don't belong to him, they belong to the master. And so it says when he leaves, the wife and the children of this Eved Ivri actually go to the master, they stay with the master, and he leaves alone. ואם אומר יאמר העבד, אהבתי את אדוני, את אשתי ואת בניי, לא אצא חופשי. Now, if the person, this Eved, he says, hold on, I'm very committed. You gave me a wife, now I have children with her. I don't want to leave. I want to stay. I want to, build a life with these kids and with this wife. So it says, lo etzeh chofshi. So he doesn't go free. Instead, what do? V'yigishu adonav el ha'elohim, v'yigishu al hadelet o al hamezuzah, v'ratza adonav et ozno b'martzeh v'avado leolam. The master takes him to the court in front of the judges, and he explains to him what's happening here. And so they all bring him to a door or a doorpost, and the master takes a needle and bores the servant's ear with an awl, and he becomes his slave forever. And now it doesn't mean forever, it means until the Yovel year, so until 50 years. So as long as he's within that 50 years, he's still considered that slave. That means, of course, it's not 50 years from when he decides this. It's 50 years in the cycle. So it could be that 20 years into the cycle, he decides he wants to be the person's slave forever again, and 30 years later he is released. And at that point, he can't say that he doesn't want anymore. That's final, and he has to be released. So those are the psukim, and now we'll jump into the Or HaChaim, who gives you a very different take on how to understand these psukim, on these verses. So switching over. So he says, he does it in der remez. He says, I'm going to explain to you the understanding of these psukim, of these verses, in a esoteric kind of way. And so what does he say? He says that when the psukim say that when the person comes, he has his soul, right? We said the Eved Ivri, right? So he said that, what is a person? A person is considered an Eved Ivri. Ivri can mean Israeli, but can also mean over, from the language of passing, that the person is passing in this world. It's not something that's going to be necessarily established, that this whole world is just coming and passing. And he's saying that the language over here is not necessarily, we're talking about an Eved, rather we're talking about every Jew who is a Eved, who is a servant to Hashem. And every Jew is a servant to Hashem in the sense that we're all liable to fulfill the commandments. We can't just go willy-nilly. We have someone over us and watching over us, and we have to make sure that we do that which He has commanded us. We are called avadim. We are called servants. And so it says that Hashem took us out of Egypt, took us out of being in servitude from mortal flesh and blood, and took us into servitude, His servitude, from a servitude from man into a servitude of God. And so we are called Eved Ivri. We're called a Eved because we serve God, but we're also called Ivri, milashon over, passing, because, of course, this world is just a passing vestibule, as it says in Pirkei Avot, that this world is a prosdor, it's a corridor that gets us into the palace, which is the next world. So how long does that period last? The Pasuk says, Shesh Shanim. It says 6 years. Now, it doesn't mean we're here for this world for 6 years, but it means that we're in this world for at least between, we'll say, 60 to 70 years, because sometimes the Torah uses certain numbers, but it gives you the lesser of the set numbers. So sometimes it'll use 6, but it really means 60. Sometimes it'll use 1, but it really means 10. And sometimes 10, it really means 100. And so over here, when the Pasuk says 6, it doesn't necessarily mean 6, it means 60. So a person is here minimum 60 years, v'shvi'it, and in the 70th year, Yetzeh lechovshi chinam. On the 70th year, he is escorted out of this world, and because as the pasuk, as David HaMelech says in Tehillim, that 70 years, and if with might, 80 years. So we see 70 is generally, as David HaMelech, he himself passed away at 70 years, and at that time he gets out of this world. He escapes. He's released from this world, and the Or HaChaim says, Dafka, it says the word chinam, and he explains a little bit about this word chinam. Chinam in Hebrew means free, and so chofshi and chinam are synonymous in that sense, that they both mean kind of he goes for free. Now, the Or HaChaim explains that chinam is not only just meaning a Hebrew word that means free, but it also explains the power behind going free. And he explains that there's a certain power of the Samech Mem, of the angel of death, that the name is called Chinam. It's one of his soldiers, maybe a different part of him itself, but it's called Chinam. and this free. And this idea, this power behind it, is that anything that comes free is under the powers of the angel of death, under this power of called chinam. And the Zohar brings out this in more detail and explains that when something is chinam, it's free, we always think free, okay, I don't have to pay for it. But he says that's not the understanding of chinam. Chinam, when it says free, and of course, usually we say free, okay, buy one, get one free, right? Who doesn't want that? The idea is that it's free of any blessings. It's without any blessings. And just like the Jews, when they left Egypt, they said that they remembered the fish that they ate in Egypt that they received for free. Now, why would the Egyptians give them free food? They wouldn't even give them mud and straw to make bricks out of. So if you're going to tell me that the Egyptians suddenly are like, okay, no, we're going to be nice, we're going to give the Jews fish so that they can eat fish and they can still work us as hard, of course not. That wasn't the intention. When the Egyptians gave the Jews fish for free, it's because they knew that if they give them anything for free, then this power of the Samech Mem, of the angel of death, will take a hold of it, and therefore it will be without blessing. And so they won't be, even what they're putting inside of them, the food that they are consuming, would be without blessing. And so they were very tactical of making sure that the Jewish people were always without blessing. And so the Zohar goes on to explain that anything that a person does for free is under these influences. Now, on the other side, if someone pays money, he's able to eradicate those forces from whatever it is. So where should one be most, worrisome about this, wary about this, is with mitzvot. Because generally with mitzvot, a person becomes very stingy. One time I went to a person's house, and they had a massive mansion, beautiful mansion. And you go to each of the rooms, mahogany, wood. This is custom made. The bathrooms are, we might think they're even real gold, and say, wow, how much money does this person have? And so after seeing this whole house, I was very astounded. And as I leave the house, I go to put my hand on the mezuzah, and I see it's a mezuzah, a very small mezuzah, maybe $20 if you go that far. And so I said, okay, maybe the cover isn't nice, but maybe inside, the klaf, the actual mezuzah where it's written, maybe that's very, very, very well. It's very well written. Maybe it's very expensive. So I asked the man. I said, listen, how much did your mezuzah cost? I know your door itself probably costs thousands of dollars. I was just wondering, how much does your mezuzah cost? He said, that mezuzah, actually, I got it for free. One of my neighbors said he had an extra one, so he gave it to me for free. I said, oh my gosh. See, what happens is a person has a massive house. He's willing to spend thousands of dollars on a door, but on a mitzvah, on a mezuzah, he takes it for free and says, I'm happy with that. It should be the complete opposite. In fact, every now that mezuzah that he got for free, according to the Zohar, is under the influences of this force called chinam. That's part of the army of the angel of death, and so it has no kedusha, has no holiness on it, in the sense that he got it for free. And so the idea is that one should always try to spend money on these mitzvot. That's why, for example, for an etrog, right, you see a lot of people go and they try to find the best etrog, even if it costs a lot of money, and they're making sure that whatever they get, it's the perfect etrog, and it doesn't matter the cost. That's because what you are ma'arich, what you value it, is its value. There was once a story that there was a very poor salesman, He was one of the students of one of these rabbis in Europe. And at the time, he had a lot of children, a lot of things that he needed to spend to get money for, and he didn't know how he was going to make ends meet. So he went to the Rebbe, and he said, "Listen, I have to, I have children to marry. I have a house to make sure that it stays warm, to bring food, and I'm just having trouble making ends meet." So the Rebbe said, "Listen, go, take your scarf and sell it, and there's going to be a convention next week in the next town. Go over there and sell it and see how much the first person that comes in and offers you, take whatever he says. Doesn't matter what the price is, take it." So I said, "Okay, fine, I'll go ahead and do that." So he goes, and he's standing there, everyone's bringing all their cargo, and everyone's starting to whisper, "Who is this guy? Why does he only have a scarf? What is maybe this is a very special scarf?" So one of the businessmen bites. He goes to the guy and he says, "Listen, I want to buy your scarf. What's special about it? How much does it cost?" He says, "I don't know what's special about it. My grandmother made it for me. It's very old, made maybe from silk. I'm not even sure." And so the guy who came over started laughing at him. What do you mean? You're just some salesman coming to a convention of salesmen. You don't understand the first thing about sales. What are you doing here? And so a lot of people started gathering, and he saw that there was a lot of people gathering. He said, "You know what? I'll make a deal with you." He said, "I'm Jewish. You're Jewish. Here, I'm willing to buy your scarf for my olam haba, for my next world." And so he remembered what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe said, "First person to offer you something, take the first offer." So he said, "Deal. You got a deal. I take your olam haba. Here you can have my scarf." And everyone started laughing. They made cheers. They drank shots, and they both went on their ways. That night, the student of the Rebbe went to his house, and so his wife was very expecting, heard from the blessing from the Rebbe, and okay, no, where's the money? And he said, "No money yet, but I got olam haba. I got olam haba of a good person." And she said, "Olam haba is not gonna buy my my food. It's not gonna heat up the house." So she wasn't so happy, but she also had faith in the Rebbe. The other man, the salesman that came back to his house, his wife said, "No, how was your day?" He said, "Oh man, it was such a successful day. I sold this, I sold that, and I even bought a scarf from one of these Jews." And she said, "Okay, how much did you buy it for?" And he said, "No, I didn't even spend one penny on it. I just gave him my olam haba." She said, "What? You gave him your olam haba? Do you understand how much money you're giving to yeshivot, to kolelim, to hold them, and to make sure that they're learning under the right environments, and you just gave all of that up for a scarf?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't think about that, this and that." She said, "Listen, you have two options. One, you get your olam haba back, or two, I'm divorcing you. I can't marry a person, can't be married to a person that doesn't have olam haba." And so now he's freaking out. He doesn't know who the person is. He starts going around trying to figure out who is this owner of the scarf. Finally, he gets to the town, and he goes to he finds the house. He knocks on the door, and he says, "Please, you have to buy back this scarf. How much are you selling my olam haba for?" He said, "Listen, your olam haba, it's not for sale." He said, I'm willing to give you $100,000. $100,000? No, thank you." He said, "Okay, $500,000. $500,000? No, thank you." He said, "Okay, final offer, $1,000,000. He said, $1,000,000? No, thank you." So he didn't know what to do. He goes to, he's despondent, walking around town. Someone sees him and asks, "Are you okay? Everything okay?" He explains him the whole story. He says, "Oh, that guy, you can't make sense. You can't reason with him. What are you gonna have to do? You're gonna have to go talk to his Rebbe." So he went to the Rebbe and he said, "Listen, this chassid, this talmid of yours, this student of yours, is not selling me back my olam haba. He said, first of all, why would you even sell him your olam haba? And second, listen, he has kids to marry off, and he has expenses. I'll make a deal with you. If you marry off all of his children and pay for his expenses until then, you got a deal. He'll give you back your olam haba. So the man said, deal. I have no other choice. My hands are tied. And that's what happened. He paid his all of expenses until he married off his last child. And at the wedding of the last child, the rich man came to the Rebbe and he said, do you really think it was worth, my olam haba was worth all this much? And the Rebbe said, at the beginning, it wasn't worth all this much, because you only valued your olam haba as much as a scarf. But now that you showed Hashem that you valued your olam haba to pay off for X amount of weddings and all of these expenses, you've showed Hashem that the value of your olam haba is valuable. And so in general, when we do mitzvot, we give the value to the mitzvah. If you buy a very nice etrog and a very nice lulav, or you make a very nice sukkah and you spend money on it, then that which you have valued is translated into a mitzvah score, to put it that way. But if someone gets a mitzvah for free, he puts it under this force of chinam, and therefore he he loses any value that can come to this mitzvah. So that's why it's just important, the Or HaChaim is bringing, to make sure, based on the Zohar, that we don't take things for free. We don't take mitzvot specifically for free, and we try to pay, even if it's minimally. Again, we assign the value to the mitzvah. So the more you're going to pay, the more Hashem sees it's valuable to you. At that moment, you will be gaining more reward. So he's given over to this malach kol chinam. So level set us for a second. We're talking about the Jewish person, the Eved Ivri, that he's in this world for 70 years, let's say, and then he goes and he is to Olam Haba, to the next world. Now, and he's given over to this force of the angel of death called Chinam. And so we said that Chinam, we don't want to do anything Chinam free in this world, but once we pass away, that is where we go. Now, the pasuk goes on to say that if he comes alone, begapo yavo, begapo yatzeh. If he goes with his body, comes to his master with his body, meaning by himself, then he leaves by himself. Meaning that, as the Or HaChaim wants to say, that if a person comes to this world and he makes sure that he doesn't do any of the mitzvot, he doesn't do any of this, he doesn't learn any Torah, he lives a very physical life, he lives a very mundane life, then that's how he's going to leave. He's not going to leave with any extra things. He's going to leave as if he is as if he's done nothing, right? And so if a person wants to live that way, then he'll leave this world without any merits to his name. But if a person marries, it comes with a wife. Now it says im bali shahu ve'atzai ishto imo. If a person, he doesn't stay in this world, he isn't very physical in this world. Rather, he toils and he's bal isha. He's the husband of a wife. Now he says bal isha is someone who goes out and searches and toils in order for him to marry a woman. Now the woman isn't just any woman. If bako begapo, we said that's the physical body, then that means the body is married to the soul. Like what we say, eshet chayil also refers to the soul, the neshama, as it's mentioned multiple times in the Zohar, that the soul is called the isha, the wife, to the body, which is called the guf, the body. And so when the body toils in purifying itself and toils in the mitzvot, then it acquires the neshama, it acquires the soul. And at that point, the combination of them allow it to be to be rectified in a sense that when it leaves, so when the person leaves this world, ve'yetza'a ishto imo, he will also leave in a sense with his body, with the physical form. That's why they say that tzaddikim, that when they pass away, they actually they don't decompose. They stay form. Their form stays in the ground. And so a person that can make himself grow in that sense will be able to purify his body and become a very spiritual being in this mundane world. Now, the pasuk goes on to say that if his master gave him a wife, so if his master gave him a wife, the Or HaChaim explains that this means that if Hashem gave him a very special neshama, there are some people that are born in this world with a very special neshama. Sometimes those special neshamot, they come through the purification of the father and mother at the time that they are born. And sometimes Hashem brings very special neshamot for the sake of the generation, or for the sake of some of the tzaddikim and the righteous people in the generation, whatever it may be. Hashem has his intentions, and what happens at that point is that the soul itself is already on a very high level. And being on a very high level, it doesn't need as much purification to the physical body as a normal soul will do. And so he comes to this world and he has children, banim ubanot. Those children are not necessarily physical children, but they are spiritual children, meaning ma'asim tovim, good deeds, mitzvot, the good deeds that a person does, and the mitzvot and the Torah that he does, and maybe the students that he brings. All of those are attributed to him, to his soul. And then, though, at the end of his life, because he did not toil as much as the other person, as the one that wasn't given such a lofty soul, and he instead was given a lower soul, and he had to toil in order to purify his body, this other soul, this soul that was given to him on a very high level from the get-go, well, Hashem says, because you didn't toil as much, it says, the pasuk says that the wife and the children stay with the master. Vehu yetzeh bekapo, and he leaves just with his by himself. So this person, even though he was on a very lofty level and he had a very high neshama, but because he didn't purify the body, meaning he didn't toil as much as one who did not get such a lofty soul, what happens is that Hashem kind of puts it on standby, his reward, and says, right now, in like Olam Haba, there is going to be a time where you're not going to get this reward, but don't worry, at Tchiyat HaMetim, when at the resurrection of the dead, you will get back all of that which was bestowed upon you. Now, the pasuk goes on, and it says, "Imomar yomar ha'eved," that if the eved, the slave now says, "Afti et adoni et ishti et banai," that he says that I love my master, my children, my wife, and my children, then we're going to say that he does not go for free. And so, if the Jew, right, who has so much, he has so much longing and desire for Hashem, and he says that I do not want to just leave this world. I want to serve Hashem forever. I don't want to just be forgotten, like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, he was one of Hashem's most trusted servants, and he didn't want to leave this world because that means that he would no longer be Hashem's right-hand man, so to say. And so the pasuk says, or Chaim also brings down, says, don't worry. It says, "V'yigisho Adonav el ha'Elohim, v'yigisho el ha'delet o et ha'mezuzah v'ratza Adonav et ozno." So we said that he goes to the court. In this case, it would be the heavenly court, and he takes he goes to the mezuzah or the delet. He goes to the doorpost, and he takes the guy's ear, and he makes a hole in the ear. Now the Orach Chaim says that if you take the word rotzea, martzea is the same numerical gematria as 400. And there are multiple sources that say that 400 is the 400 worlds that are given to tzaddikim. The mission at the end of Uktzim says that Hashem is going to lanchil lekol tzaddik shay olamot, that Hashem is going to bestow upon every tzaddik 310 olamot, 310 worlds. And then it says, he brings the pasuk lanchil ohava yesh, that I will bestow upon those who I love yesh, which is the gematria of 310, ve'otzratehem emale, and their storehouses I will fill. So they ask, how many? Well, I guess 310 is the reward. What's this filling of the storehouses? So a tzaddik is the same, it's a letter, it's also tzaddik. And that gematria is 90. So if you do 310 plus 90, you get the 400, and that would be the 400 worlds of reward. So this person who longs to serve Hashem, like Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem says, don't worry, I'm going to put inside of you these 400 worlds of reward, v'avdo le'olam, and you will now be my slave, you will be my servant forever. Just like Moshe was called an Eved Ne'eman. We say every morning, every Shabbat morning, that Moshe is called an Eved Ne'eman. It says actually he was very happy. We say in the morning blessing, Yismach Moshe, ki Eved Ne'eman karalo. That Hashem called him a faithful servant. That was Moshe's happiest time. It says Yismach Moshe. Moshe was happy. Why? Because Hashem called him a faithful servant. And so the Orach Chaim is saying that when someone has these longings, these desires to serve Hashem, they don't go unanswered, and Hashem will serve him. He will be able to serve Hashem even in the world to come. What we learn from this Orach Chaim is something fascinating. What we learn from it is that every pasuk that we read, even though sometimes we say, how do these things apply to us? How can I'm not going to buy a servant, so why should I read verses? Why should I read a parsha about servants? So the Orach Chaim is coming to tell us that no, not everything, of course, is read on a physical level, but we know that Torah is also called from Lashon Hora'ah. It's called lessons. It's called teachings, meaning that they apply every day throughout every generation. And if the Torah thought it's important to teach about the Eved, the slave, and after 6 years he goes free, after the 7th year he goes free, that means it applies even to our very day. And if that's the case, the Orach Chaim is saying that he's giving us the recipe, the Torah is giving us the recipe on how to become a proper servant to Hashem, a proper Eved of Ivri, a Eved in this world, a servant in this world that is passing, being here maybe 60, 70 years, 80 with might, as David HaMelech says. But what do we need to do? We need to make sure that we're not serving our body, we're not serving our physical desires. Instead, we should be Bal Isha. We should make sure that we acquire all of these mitzvot. Don't just do them in passing. Do them with intent. Do them with desire. Do them with longing. doing them with love, and with that we're able to acquire and rectify and purify our bodies, that when after we pass through this world, we'll be able to come back with the zchut, with the merit of all of those mitzvot and all of those Torah that we did, to celebrate with the Mashiach. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue next week. And hold on, as before I stop. And so, how does this apply to Parashat Shkalim? Thanks for reminding. Is that when we give the shekel, we don't give a full shekel. We give half a shekel. And the idea of being half a shekel instead of a full shekel is to show that in this world we are always going to be half. That Hashem is always going to be the other half of us. Is always going to be the one to fulfill, to bring us back to that whole. And so if a person lives his life knowing that he's only half, meaning whatever he's doing in this world is only half of his existence, meaning there's a whole nother world, there's a whole nother existence that Hashem is going to bestow upon the person, it changes his outlook on certain things. Instead of living a physical and mundane life, he's going to elevate it. He's going to purify the body, purify the mundane, in order to establish himself and establish the physical world around him on a higher physical, loftier level. And that's why we're coming into when we read this specifically, coming into the month of Adar, and after that, of course, Nisan, because in these months we're more spiritually in tune during these months to rectify the physical, as we'll be speaking in the next couple of weeks, specifically Purim and specifically Pesach, on these holidays, when we're able to tap into the spiritual essence of all of these physical, mundane objects in our world, and we're able to elevate them all for Hashem. And when that is done, and it's done correctly, then not only do we elevate our bodies, our physical bodies, with the souls inside of them, but we're also able to elevate this world, and in doing so, we're able to bring us closer to the Mashiach, who will eventually reveal the third Beit HaMikdash. And B'ezrat Hashem, that will happen soon. Any questions?